Malcolm, thank you so much for joining us today. Now, you have a wonderful connection with your son. Both of you are artists that exhibit together. Can you tell us about your relationship with your children?
Um, I've got a son. He's going to be 9 this year. My relationship with my son really it started from the very moment I saw his ultrasound picture. I really fell in love with him. Uh, it just grew from there. Uh, we don't really have this uh, very literal father son sort of relationship. Our relationship is more like I call him bro.
Oh, really? Yeah.
He calls me sometimes bro, and when it's cheeky, he calls me Mr. Malcolm. So it's always been there. A lot of hugging, a lot of talking, a lot of play, and I think that really is something that you born you, and I don't think it's something which is very specific with me alone. I think a lot of fathers in Malaysia these days do the same thing. I've come across fathers calling their sons bro, their girls, you know, uh, and it's no longer the kind of father child relationship that uh, our grandparents, our fathers had with us. It's actually more uh, friend-like, and I think that is important because in the in the long run, they look at their father as someone they can actually talk to. And I've always instilled that. And even if my son was when he was like 6, he could actually come and tell me his uh, inner demons. If he's not happy with something, he could come and tell me, bro, I don't like this. And we have high fives and low fives and all that. So this connection started when I saw his ultrasound picture, and the art is something that we both connect. He's an amazing, amazing abstract artist. He teaches me, in fact, along the way, and I'm actually astounded with uh, what he does sometimes. So it it's an amazing journey, and I think what's important is this is actually a gift. God has given me this gift of being a father, and that sometimes we forget about that, and I don't. One of my ambitions was to be a father.
Oh,
Oh,
right.
was it?
Everyone else had ambitions to be a doctor or a lawyer. My ambition was to be a father, and when I became one, it was me achieving what I always wanted, and I do it with such intensity, with such passion, which I think in the long run is good for the child. Yeah.
But being a bro, though, sometimes is there a conflict inside of you where sometimes you have to discipline your son?
Oh yes, yes. My son knows the boundary, and I think that's the amazing thing. When you call him bro, and it's not that I always call him bro. When I do call him by his name too, but it has always been the situation whereby he knows what the boundaries are. Um, if he's done something wrong, it's not about punishing him in with physical punishment or screaming at him. It's about talking to him like an adult, uh, giving him a timeout, not putting him against the wall, but pulling him away and saying, you know what, bro, I don't think this is how it's going to be done. And when you talk, and children these days, they are so advanced. Uh, you will be amazed as to the level of intelligence that they have. Uh, and that's the thing that I actually tell all parents that you should talk to your child. And there's so far been thankfully no conflict. We, despite me calling him bro and dude, and we love the same music. He's he used to go for the drum classes, and when his tutor asked him to to that he wants to teach him how to play the drums. He was just impatient, and he said, "Listen," and teacher said, "If you learn how to play drums, you could play Baba Black Sheep." He goes to the teacher and says, "Baba Black Sheep? Who wants to play Baba Black Sheep? I want to play Alice in Chains."
Nice.
so,
Nice.
so it's a bit of a rocker, yeah. So always an amazing experience, actually.
I like that.
So, just very quickly, I'm interested. You said that being a dad was always a dream of yours. Did you have a good relationship with your father?
An amazing relationship. My dad, my late father, and I shared an amazing relationship. He worked in the oil rigs. I would only see him for 2 weeks, and 2 weeks he would be on the oil rig. But every time he came, all I could remember was him playing with me, telling me stories, and putting me on his lap, and I think a lot of my experience it stems from my dad, in the sense that he wasn't just my dad. Uh, I wouldn't want to do something against or something that would make him angry or go against what he wants, but I could actually go to him as a friend. Uh, so I had that relationship with my dad, and it was an amazing relationship. He passed on in 2012, before my son was born. But I think, if he was around, I hope and I think he would be proud of what I've done thus far. Yeah.
So, being a hands-on dad is like obviously so important to you. In
Yeah.
what way did your own experience lead to the forming of the Fathers' Rights Association of Malaysia, of which you are actually president?
Right. I wouldn't call myself a hands-on dad. I would call myself a father, a dad. Every dad out there have this obligation, and they do this. Dads these days are not dads that were there before. In the sense that dads these days, they change the diapers of the kids, they cook, they really get into the whole routine. They drive the kids to school and all of that. Now, when I went through a separation, what I went through is, obviously when you don't get to see your son, you go down this whole emotional road, and it's not a very good place to be. You are not able to sleep with your son. You're not able to watch him play. There's a lot of things that's suddenly taken away from you. And what happened is that it didn't start when I didn't get to see my son. It started when I went to litigation, and I started speaking to fathers who were in the same predicament or who went through the same predicament. I noticed that a lot of fathers out there really didn't have a place to talk. I noticed one constant factor: all of them were going through a tough time emotionally, and that affects not only their social life, it affects their job. And what was sad was they didn't have a place to be. The stigma all this while is a father is that a man is this silverback gorilla, the alpha male. You can't cry, you can't be seen to be a human, which is you can feel hurt. And I started talking to fathers, and I started to receive calls from other fathers, and I realized that um, there've been occasions in which I would get a call from a father who and I would drive to some place I've never been in my life, just to be by this father who was sitting on his bed, simply holding his child's picture and just crying. Why? Because he misses his child and he doesn't understand why the marriage broke down. But what did he do to be taken away from his child? We marriages take place and marriages break. That's between spouses, you know. But a lot of times the child is an innocent party. The child doesn't know why this is happening. But a lot of times the father is in a place where he doesn't have anyone to talk to. Stigma again. It'll be embarrassing for him to cry to another guy. So we've started to break down those barriers in this association. That's how this association from a simple group WhatsApp call, it started to grow. It now includes friends from all fathers from all around Malaysia. It started with just 2 fathers. It then moved to fathers in Penang, in Kuantan, in Kelantan, and all of that. And one thing is, when you realize some fathers just remain silent, and I think the reason why they remain silent, they look at all our stories, and that's their way to heal. Some fathers are very proactive. A lot of them call me. Some of them are at a very, very difficult place. They need help, and what we do is we talk to them. Sometimes you get a call at 11 p.m. and talking to the father you'll end up talking to the father until 2 a.m.
And when you say help, is it legal help or is it psychological help?
It's more psychological. It's more emotional and
support, right?
Support. It's actually a support group, and we've enlisted a counselor, and she's been an amazing angel. Her name is Rajita, and she provides free counseling. And it's wonderful that some of the fathers have started to call her and talk, and we see that as a step forward. So my personal experience, it may have brought about the need to look at forming an association, and I think one of my secretary, Sheikh Malik, was kept saying, you know what, we should do this. I think we really should start an association, and he actually pushed it further from just a mere group WhatsApp support group to what it is now.
But what is FRAM to you now? What did it start with, and what is it now? Do you have a vision for it?
Yeah. Well, FRAM is essentially a pressure group. It's also a support group. It's a group where fathers can come. It's not just limited to fathers, really. It's limited to everyone who supports this notion that fathers should be allowed to be involved with their child. Now, if a father really is fighting to spend an extra day with a child, and he's willing to change the way he works his work schedule, and he just wants to be with his son or his daughter or his children, then that is what we are saying, that father should be allowed. Why keep the child away from that father's right? So the mission is actually this. It is to advocate a shared parenting. It is to educate the public that fathers have a very integral role in the bringing up of the child or the children. Every children out there needs parents. We're not saying that we want custody of child. No, we say that both parents need. It is a teamwork. You know, you can't take one party out. You can't take the mother out, but the mothers have roles in upbringing the child. Likewise, fathers also play a very important role. And recent literatures, when I say recent, it's not 5 years ago, but literatures these days seem to point towards fathers playing a very, very important role. So that's what FRAM is all about.
I like that. Just because you're a bad spouse doesn't mean you're a bad parent, right?
Yes.
So, in terms of your mission, what are you hoping to sort of achieve, both, and this is a made-up word, legislatively and socially, with FRAM?
Asha, that's a good question. Now, if you look at what's happening around the world, there is a push, really, and this didn't start 5 years ago, 10 years ago. It started way back in 1960. It is what commonly called as the fathers' rights movement. All right. Now, what it does is simply this: it seeks to educate the public. It seeks to change the way the norms are looked at. Fathers, they go to work, they bring in the money. That's it. That's all your role is. Saturday and Sunday, you play with your kids. That's not how it works these days. Fathers really, there are a lot of stay-home dads and all of that. So we need to look at it in pockets. You need to first change and educate the public, raise awareness socially. There's campaigns and there's plan to have podcasts and call in psychologists and professionals to actually put it out there that a father is actually required in a family unit. The family unit may have broken because spouses can't see eye to eye and we've gone through divorce or whatever. But that family unit still is there. And what is this family unit? The mother, the father, and the child or the children. That's it. And that cannot be broken. And when you look at legislative reforms, this is what I've been saying, that this is not something which is going to be alien in Malaysia. It is an act which legislative reforms are happening all over the world. A lot of countries have moved from this concept of sole custody to shared parenting. In America, states like Kentucky, Missouri, and all of that, they have adopted with a resounding success a bill to look at shared parenting. And then you have countries such as Sweden, which has shared parenting. And these are concepts which are now slowly creeping in. And this is what we are hoping to lobby, that the presumption now, a default presumption when you go to court, is that you are given the option of shared parenting. So when I go to court and the court looks at the parties and say, you know what, you get now offered to you shared parenting. It's up to the father, the mother to actually say, you know what, I can't do shared parenting. Why? Because I've got work, I've got whatever. I don't mind seeing the child 3 days in a week or 2 days in a week. But you have that option first, as opposed to putting a bar in front of you. And a lot of times fathers have to really go out there and prove that they are fathers first, they are a fit parent, and that's not how it ought to be. And that's why I think the law has slowly evolved, and that is what we hope to achieve in Malaysia. It's a long process, but we hope that for the child's sake, things evolve.
So before this was so black and white. That means in general, the mother generally gets custody. So now at least there's the gray area gets some focus as well, right? Okay.
Oh, well, presently it is this. If a child is below 7, then the presumption is that the mother is the best parent. But in a lot of countries, like I said, when you go to court, the court actually puts in shared parenting. That is the presumption. And children these days, like I said, they've developed intellectually, far younger. I don't think you need to really get the child to choose. I think you should just make it easier. And when you take away issues like that, the fight for custody of a child, it doesn't help anyone really.
Yeah.
Both spouses are enriching the lawyers.
Yeah,
that's a nice way of putting
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Fees is it could be anything between 30,000 to 500,000. Those monies could be better put to
To
putting
the
it
child.
in a fund for the child.
Yeah.
Lawyers can always find monies from other areas of law, breach of contract or whatever, bankruptcy or whatever. But this is it. When you take away a very sensitive area, it is actually proven in many countries that a lot of times the spouses are actually able to work together.
Yeah, because every family also is very different.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you have to look at that. It's not just
Yeah.
black and white. Before 7 is better with the mom. Every family is different, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. And that's a good point too, because one thing in literature that she showed that children these days they mature earlier. My son could talk to me about things that I was astounded. When I was his age, the only thing I knew was that's a tadpole, and you don't try to
Right. Okay.
blame.
Yeah, I see
These
what you
days
mean.
he comes back to you and says things like, "Do you know in Mars the hurricane is at this velocity?" And I go like, "Okay, I didn't know Mars had hurricanes, but yeah, So it's just that children these days
We need to move with the times.
Malcolm, I hear you on that. I mean, like I've been schooled by my son for many years about, what's currently happening in the world, So I hear you, parent to parent. We could sit and talk for hours on this. Okay, so tell me, why do you think it's taken so long for fathers' rights groups to emerge here? What kind of stigma is attached?
Well, it's just this that for a long time, fathers are seen as solely the breadwinner. That's it. They are not seen as a individual that can nurture. But once again, literature has shown that every time your wife gets pregnant, you too get into a hormonal change because that is life's way, biologically, that you're being conditioned to have a nurturing side. So you could be a whoever you are, but you will start having that nurturing side. Why did it take so long? Just that we had, I believe, we had organizations in Malaysia, but they were very specific to parental alienation and all of that. This is the only association, I think, the first association in Malaysia which talks about fathers' rights. It took a long time because it is about changing the mindset, getting fathers out there to say, you know what, I think we need to do this. And each and every father that I speak to says this: I need to do this not for me. I need to do this so that other fathers get to reap the benefits of what we do. It's not about this is going to be one up for me. No, it's never that. I don't want to put, and I tell my friends this. I will not wish what happened to me even to my worst enemy. And I don't want to see another father who's been go through a divorce or a custody battle to go through what I went through, and a lot of other fathers went through emotionally. And that is why we decided that we want to do this for every child out there, that they have this privilege. And it's so sad that I have to say it's a privilege. Because that's what it's come to. If you get to see your child, oh yeah, well, good, you get to see your child every alternate weekend. But that is 4 days in a month. It is 2 days, 1 night. How do you bond with your child?
Yeah.
How do you teach your child things? And that is why it started out of the fact that we decided this has to end. It does no good to a child. It does no good to innocent children out there who are suddenly taken away from that family. It hence why Palik and I and this another our treasurer, Dr. Anas, we decided that we need to do this. It's now or never, and here we are.
Yeah, so it's interesting listening to you, because even the sort of the language, the visitation rights. Well, actually, you want parenting time, not visitation rights, right? That's really if you're going to bare knuckle bone it or whatever, take it down to the bones, whatever you want to call it. Okay.
That's why we say children need fathers and not visitors.
Yeah. Right.
Yep.
How have the stories of other fathers in your group affected you in your work in FRAM? Like, could you share one of those stories with us?
Yeah, I could. There are father. I get to see my son every alternate weekend, but there are fathers out there who have not seen their child for the last 2.5 years, and all they have are just a picture of their son taken 2.5 years ago. And these are fathers who have done no fault. Once again, the marriage didn't work out, but they had an amazing relationship with their child, and all they have now. In fact, I spoke to a father in Penang, and he said, "Bro, if I were to pass my son, I'm just worried that I may not be able to recognize him, and he may not be able to recognize me. All I have is a picture of him when he was 6. I don't know how he looks like. There's no contact. Cortex ages, there's applications, and all of this. And he is in a position where he's afraid to get into a relationship because you've got this trauma with what happened previously. He's thinking of adopting a child, and I asked him why, and he said, "You know what? I love children. I don't get to see my son. I think he's forgotten me." And he cries. I've got another story of a father who went to town and he saw a billboard of his daughter. When she did a ad, and he was in his car and he just stopped the car and he just broke down crying because that is his connection with his daughter, a billboard. And there are countless stories like this of fathers who really wanting to have time with your kids. It's not an issue of, fine, I'll let you have a video call or a phone call. It is the ability to hug your child, to smell your child, to feel your child, to talk to your child. That's what we want. Saturday and Sunday, you pick your child up at 10 a.m. on Saturday and return him on Sunday at 7 p.m. Really, it is not sufficient. And a lot of fathers out there don't even get that, So the story that the fathers in my group and my association talks about, sometimes it is emotionally difficult on the person listening because you get very emotional and a lot of times we end up crying because it's heart-wrenching that there is a father out there who is working very hard. He's done nothing wrong. There were all kinds of allegations thrown at him. And what happened was he was just taken, he couldn't see the child. His only memory are pictures and videos. That's it. and we need to change this. We should not do this to a child. That's why we exist.
Yeah. Actually, that's a good point, because you think you're doing it, like the custody battle, you think you're doing it to your spouse, but actually the biggest loser is the child, isn't it?
Always.
Yeah.
Always.
So I suppose I'd ask, obviously there are the fathers that know of you and the organization, and those who are currently going through their own version of the worst nightmare, and haven't heard of you yet or don't know how to reach you. So what message would you give to fathers who are being, alienated right now or going through the courts, and it's just an awful situation for them?
Well, we in our position, Asha, we don't just have fathers. We have amazingly a lot of mothers who really support what we do. To all the fathers out there, don't do this by yourself. A divorce or a custody battle, and I've written this in my Facebook a couple of years ago. It's an emotional roller coaster. You would think that you are strong, but you are not. It's such a roller coaster of emotional proportions that you cannot fathom. What we always tell them is contact us, because you need to know, you need to hear stories about how we live day to day, and you will gain strength. There is hope, and you don't have to hurt by yourself. You don't have to be alone. We are there with you. We will guide you. We will give you all the emotional support that you need. And when you hear fathers out there um, telling their stories, um, you gain strength, and you don't give up. We tell a lot of fathers, because of the weight of finance and emotional trauma, we hear this over and over again. They say, you know what, I just gave up. Why do you give up? Because I can't do this for the child. I can't do this to the child. And some of them have just left the country. And we tell them that that is not how it ought to be. If you give up on your child or your children, what you're doing is you're betraying them.
So are you saying that a lot of dads give up on their children because they think it's the best thing for their child?
Sadly, yes. Sadly, a lot of fathers give up. A lot of fathers say, you know what, I don't want issues. If I'm going to see my child every alternate weekend, so be it. Because every time I ask for an additional day or one shared parenting, it just leads to a whole load of things. There's applications, litigation, lawyers' fees, and all of that. And they all invariably give up. And that is what the system does. It we need to realize this, that the end of the day, the system usually fails, not the father. The system usually fails the child. And that is the general thought around the world, and hence why it's evolving. We need to embrace that this evolution that's taking place, because it's not done to empower a father. It is done simply to give the child that basic dignity, the right to both the child's parents. So yeah.
Sorry, I'm having a bit of a moment here listening to you, Malcolm.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to mention about FRAM and the work you're doing?
It you had a moment there, Asha, and this I go through this every day. The Sometimes you just ask yourself, why do I need to do this? emotional sometimes, because you then come out much stronger and you say, you know what, I get to see my child, but there's a father out there who is unable to see his or her child or children. At least you say, you know what, I'm blessed. I could see my son alternate weekends. We need to do this really. It's not about gender anymore. It's not about it's a male thing. It's not about a female thing. It's about, for God's sake, it's about a child. Let's all really fight for the child. A lot of times, we have all the money to go to court, appoint some big lawyers, fight for, I'm the best husband, I'm the best wife. That little child there doesn't have that right. That little child can't go and say, you know what about my right? What about the right that I have to see my father equally? We have organizations that talk about child. We all need to sit down. It's not a war between gender. It's not a war between who's going to lose out. We're not taking anyone's power away. We are just saying, give that child that dignity. And if you put the child in the forefront, you can't say that what we are doing is wrong. We're not saying we don't want to pay maintenance. We're not saying, you know what, we're only going to pay you $10. No, we are not. We are saying that we want to be a part of that child's life, just like how you, the mother, are part of the child's life. And that's what it is. And every time I talk to fathers, just like I'm talking to you, you get emotional because it's something that is really, really close to my heart. We are all so passionate about this. We can, in my group, we could talk from 8 p.m., forget our dinner, and we'll be talking at 2 a.m. It's just that we hope that fathers out there stop hurting. There is a place where you can belong, and it is not money. If you're not well, if you are under medication, there are some fathers out there who are under medication and they have this thing that I cannot be a good father. It's not about that. The fact that you've taken medication shows that you are
being responsible
Yep, and that's the mindset. If you are under some form of medication, everyone then puts a stigma that you are unfit, period. It's actually to the contrary. You are an amazingly responsible father. You are taking steps to better yourself, and don't take the child away. We get videos put in our group of fathers and their experience with their kids and their time with their kids. And there's a father in Terengganu who cries for a good 45 minutes. He's not very rich, and all he could afford was this little toy car, which is he said 7 ringgit 50 cents. He only could spend about 15 minutes with his child. And he said he was driving back and he posted this video and he was crying uncontrollably and said, that's all I could see my son, 15 minutes. And then it breaks our heart to see that this father is hurting. So we don't want fathers out there to do that anymore. You know, stand up, fight for your child, because 15 years later, you know what? I promise you this: your child is going to say, "Thank you, thank you for not giving up on me."